So, good morning. This is the February 20th, 2024 meeting of the Chatham Historical Commission. In case you're wondering what I'm doing here, I'm Bob Lear. I'm the vice chair. Our chair, Mr. Messina, is recently had surgery, but he's on his way for a comeback, so hopefully soon. To start with, this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, please notify the chairman. Pursuant to Governor Healy's March 29th, 2023 signing of Acts 2023 extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, general laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20 until March 31, 2025. This meeting of the Chatham Historical Commission is being conducted in person and via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 1-508-945-4410, conference ID 839-790-586 hashtag, or join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link posted in the agenda. While this is a live broadcast and simulcast on Chatham TV, despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide for real-time access. We will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. So we will start with the roll call. As I mentioned, our chair, Mr. Messina, is not present. I'm present. Mr. Burlingame.
Here.
Mr. Aikman also is not present. Ms. Hamilton.
Here.
Ms. Porter.
Here. Here.
Thank you. Ms. Tennyson.
Here.
Mr. Stevens.
Here.
And Robert, since we have some people missing, you will be a voting person today. And speaking of members, Frank had asked me to make the point that we have an opening for an alternate to the commission, and there may well be some turnover prior to June due to people having had enough or other issues. So we're looking for new blood up here. The younger the better, not to denigrate some of us, but I think we're, except for Christina, we're not exactly chickens. So out there, or for members here, do some recruiting. Okay, first item on the agenda is a continuation application 24-002. The first is the minutes, you are correct. Minutes of February 6, 2024. Any suggestions, corrections, et cetera? Ms. Hamilton.
I have three minor corrections. Under minutes, a motion was made, Mr. Messina, I think it should be by Mr. Messina. On page 3, new business, Mr. Lear and Mr. Aikman reviewed the application to replace windows and doors like for like. You see that? Like for like needs to be.
Hyphenated?
Yeah. And then a motion at the end, it says that I left early, but it also says I voted against.
That's it?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Mr. Vice Chairman, I move we accept the minutes as corrected.
Second?
Okay, we shall have the roll call again. Mr. Burlingame,
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton,
Yes.
Ms. Porter,
Yes.
Ms. Tennyson,
Yes.
Mr. Stevens,
Yes.
and I also vote yes, so the minutes are approved. Now we can get to application 24-002, which is 162 Shore Road. As I said, it was continued from February 6th for submission of some, if the applicant wanted to revise some of the plans. They have been forwarded to us. And Mr. Litchfield, do you want to tell us what you did or what your clients did?
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Bill Litchfield here on behalf of Tom and Michelle Jennings. With me is Jonathan Fox of Hutker Architects. And Tom Jennings is with us virtually as part of the team's meeting. As the chair indicated, we were here on February 6th, and you naturally found the two structures involved, the salt box and the windmill, to be historic. And you also asked that we take a look at the rear dormers on the salt box, that we consider reducing the size of the east-facing windows at the rear of the salt box, and we also give some further thought to the windmills in the salt box. We met both in person and virtually with the design team and with Tom and Michelle Jennings a couple of times, and we filed with Christina electronically last Thursday afternoon or Friday morning some updated plans, which you have in front of you, which we think are reasonably responsive and appropriately responsive to your concerns. And with that, if I could, I'll turn this over to Mr. Fox to talk about the specifics.
That's fine.
Hi, good morning. And my colleague Jessica Kelly is on Zoom, and she has a digital version that, if we could pull that up on the screen, we can just use that side by side. So Jessica, if you can pull the presentation up, that would be great. Thank you. So as Bill mentioned, we worked with Tom and Michelle Jennings to, come up with the best way to accommodate a lot of these comments and suggestions. And one thing you'll notice in this updated presentation we shared is we changed the format based on the board's recommendation to go as a more direct comparison with the elevation. So Jessica, if you want to go to pages, I think it's 4 and 5, might be the most clear way to see the adjustments that we've made. So on the front elevation, you'll see the existing and proposed is almost identical. As we said, we'd like to preserve it as best we can. As soon as we can get to that page. Yeah, thank you. All right, so page 4, you can see the west elevation of the house, existing to proposed. We're maintaining and preserving the front elevation. And then as you move around, you can see that we've taken the existing dormer on the east elevation and we're removing that for a more authentic and more streamlined dormer that'll be more consistent of the period of the house. You can see that in the side elevation there. And then Jessica, do you want to move to the back side? So here you can see the dormers at the top. As Bill mentioned, we reduced the size of the dormers. So now it's 3 dormers, each with a single window. We've reduced the windows in the living room. The windows that are flanking on the left and right are the same as the window on the front elevation. So they've just, that same window, we pulled it around the back. So it's inspired by that original window. And then the windows in the middle are reduced significantly from the last time. And they're based off the proportion of those other windows. They're just slightly larger, one light division in width and height larger. And then the dormers have an alignment with the windows above them, so you can see the 3 dormers align with the windows. So I did a contextual study in Chatham in fall 2022. I walked around town, drove around town.
What would you guys like to do now?
I walked around town and basically from downtown toward Shore Road, observing as many historical buildings from the streets, taking a lot of photos, and found that the shed dormer was quite common. And you can see here this sheet that we put together a couple examples. So the top 2 images were just some examples in town of many that were sort of our inspiration for what might have been typical of that time. Especially on the back side, you can see in the upper left-hand corner, it was quite common on the back to have a smaller dormer like that. And then the bottom 2 images are the more local context. So the neighbors to both the left and right of the Jennings property. The bottom right-hand side is the house on the left from the street. And then, of course, the Joseph Lincoln house on the bottom left there. And another good example, we were pretty inspired by that dormer as well. That the current homeowner, Mrs. Basil, has under good authority that Joseph Lincoln did some of his writing from that window. So we thought that was a cool story and a nice touch. So you can see this, this has kind of become our inspiration for the dormer. If you want to jump back to the elevations, Jess, thank you. That's become our inspiration for the dormers, to try to keep it as authentic and historically contextual as possible. Regarding the windmill, if you want to jump to the windmill elevations, we've removed any additional windows that we had talked about before. So per the comments, we've gone with leaving the existing windows as is on the upper portion of the windmill. There's 2 windows, and we're going to replace those windows in the same size and manner with as authentic windows as we can. They're going to be historical wood windows with the divided light that's both on the exterior and interior of the glass, so not just in between the panes of glass. That way it looks as authentic to a window of that period. And then on the lower level, we are replacing the door with a window, and if you want to jump to the side-by-side comparisons, you can see we're replacing the windows on the lower level as well, and again with authentic wood windows. And this is also the case for the salt box structure. Those windows will be authentic wood windows of the, in the vein of what a window would have been like then, with the plank frame, the projected frame window, and other, the other wood elements. So I think that covered most of the comments and the big, sort of the big changes that we discussed. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Jonathan. We have tried with the support, the encouragement of the homeowner to be responsive to your concerns, and at the same time to provide some modern living amenities for the 2 structures. And the critical aspect, of course, as you know, is that they are both being preserved, relocated on the property, so that the salt box will have the prominence which it has lost in recent years, and will be, I don't know, it's going to make it another 200 years, but it's certainly going to make it as long as Tom and Michelle own the property. And we thank you.
Mr. Burlingame, question?
Just a comment. I think you have all been very responsive to our comments and our suggestions. I fully appreciate what you've done, and certainly would support the application as it's presented today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephanie?
I just have a question about the chimney.
Yeah.
Just have a question about the chimney. What is coming out of the chimney? Is that,
In the existing elevation you're referring to, there's like a stovepipe.
Yes.
That's a stovepipe flue, which is going to be removed.
so you won't need that in the new?
Correct. The new chimney will be restored as the original chimney you see there, which was before the stove flue was added.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else?
You did respond very well to our comments. It's a great presentation. I don't see any problem.
Thank you.
I'd add to that, it's more nitpicky, but obviously you've addressed the concerns, but they're, to my mind anyway, presented in a much more an understandable fashion, so that we can get a better handle on it. So that's a good thing. And of course, my favorite picky thing is the page numbers. Is there a consensus then that the changes are acceptable to not diminish the material value of the historic structure? So could we have a motion related to, we've already done the historic part, what's next?
I would move that the Chatham Historical Commission finds that the proposed work to be done, as shown on the drawings dated February 20th, 2024, will not materially diminish the historical significance of the building and accompanying structure, and therefore the commission will not impose a demolition delay.
Second.
Second by Ms. Tennyson. Okay, we'll have the roll call again. Mr. Burlingame.
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton.
Yes.
Ms. Porter.
Yes.
Ms. Tennyson.
Yes.
Mr. Stevens.
Yes.
And the acting chair votes yes. So
Thank you very much.
you're good to go. Thank you.
We appreciate your time and your guidance as well. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, the next one on the list is, just hit it, application 24-004 to be heard in accordance with Chapter 158, a demolition delay bylaw, and a notice of intent to fully demolish a building at 83 Old Mill Road, or actually two buildings, a house and a garage. Mr. Marsh?
Yes, good morning, commission members. How's everybody today?
I
I
heard
was
you
less than enthusiastic.
we were told yesterday that you were in Steamboat Springs.
Well, I was.
Oh, well, Friday, actually.
What was that again?
It was Friday, actually.
I got back on Saturday night.
Ah, okay. Well, good. I'd rather see Susan, but that's neither here nor there.
Thank you very much.
All right, what you doing?
Well, I got to find what Susan told me to say here. I can't find it, of course. But this is about 83 Old Mill Road. The house was built in 1942. We have it under agreement to purchase, subject to approvals and a building permit. So we're going through the necessary drill with Board of Health, you folks, and we have to go to the ZBA because it's pre-existing non-conforming. So I'm not sure what more to say. I don't see that the house has any significant historic or architectural value at all. Literally every single thing in the house needs to be replaced to bring it up to code and bring it up to today's standard of living. So we'd like to tear the house down and build a new house in the same spot.
Do you have any indication that the building or the situation might meet the other criteria from the bylaw, as in historic people or significant architecture or?
Well, Susan did all the research, and, anything that's, in our experience, anything that's been historically significant, there's usually a card on file or something from the National Register, or the state, or something. We could find nothing.
Okay. All right. Commissioners, any questions, requests for further information? Mr. Burlingame.
Just quickly, which doesn't really relate to your application at all, but will you do any significant filling in the rear of the property?
Will I do any filling? Was that the question?
Yeah, any significant filling in the rear?
Well, it's, when you say significant, that term is kind of all over the place, but there's roughly an 8-foot change in grade that we know, just walking on the site. And then, of course, Dave Clark has done a great site plan for us, and so we know exactly what the topography is there. It's about an 8-foot change from the street to the rear of the building. And then as you look out from the street, the neighbor to the right, there's kind of a hole in the topography that's even deeper between the house I have under agreement to buy and the next door neighbor. So given that if we get all the approvals that we need and actually get a building permit, my plan is to talk to the neighbor next door and see if we can't fill in that hole as it will rise to the benefit of both properties. And there'll be some amount of fill we would like to bring in the backyard, maybe, but not, I would say not a lot. So when you say significant, I'm not sure. There'll be some fill brought in, but not an awful lot. And we'll maintain a walkout at the rear of the house.
Anybody else? Any thoughts on historical significance or the lack thereof?
Well, having visited and been there with your representative on last Friday, I didn't really see historical significance that needed to be preserved. It looks like a cottage that has fallen into disrepair, and I don't see a historical significance, and there's none in the records.
Anybody else? How about a motion from our clerk?
I'd make a motion that the Chatham Historical Commission finds that the building structure located at 83 Old Mill Road is not historically significant, and therefore the commission shall not impose a demolition delay.
I'll second.
Okay, for the vote, Mr. Burlingame,
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton,
Yes.
Ms. Porter,
Yes.
Ms. Tennyson,
Yes.
Mr. Stevens,
Yes.
and the vice chair votes yes also. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we have a few additional items on the agenda, none of which are particularly significant. I guess they're more administrative and updates on things. The first one is the Preservation Awards planning. Ms. Tennyson, you've been part of that process. Can you just give us an update about where it is, sort of process-wise?
Yes, the Chatham Preservation Awards Committee met on February 9th at the Atwood Museum, and as Frank Messina explained at our last meeting, the committee is comprised of 2 members from the Chatham Historical Commission, 2 from the Historic Business District Commission, and 2 from the Chatham Historical Society. And we reviewed the 6 applications that were received and discussed the qualifications for each admission. We arrived at a consensus, and the applicants will be notified soon. Right, Christina? Yeah. An official announcement will be made at an upcoming meeting. And our next committee meeting will be on April 3rd to finalize our plans. And the awards ceremony will be at the Atwood Museum on Saturday, May 18th.
Okay, so the results of the committee's work will be sent to the applicants first, and then we'll announce that, since we didn't want to surprise them on television. So, okay, thank you for that. There's a demolition delay, which we don't have to worry about for a while, on 322 Bridge Street, or maybe have to not worry at all, because it has to go to, or it's listed, no, it's already been withdrawn from ZBA, so they're going to have to start over. National blah, blah, blah. The other one that I have some information on the chairman's report, is the U.S. Coast Guard Boathouse at 90 Bridge Street. I spoke to Mr. Keon yesterday, he's Director of Coastal Resources, I guess, and he explained that the plan had been to send the project out for bid to finish all the, quote, in-water work. They've been dredging, and that next step is a bulkhead and then a variety of other things need to happen in the water. And then the site would be hopefully ready for the boathouse to return in September or October, such as for this year. Unfortunately, when they put that work out for bid, there was much more than was in the budget to do the work. So the plan has been pulled back to try to do the bulkhead first, send that out for bid soon, hopefully get that done, and then plan is to have a new waterfront bond presented to the annual town meeting. And if that bond is passed, that will create funds to finish the work both in the water and on shore. The net result being that the boathouse probably wouldn't be able to come back until the fall of 2025. Now, that's not necessarily the case, but that's the information at this point, which is not, I guess, surprising, given the complexity of the whole thing. But that's where the town is. Issues on hold, I don't have anything to say about. Any other things that folks would like to bring up for the benefit of the commission and the public? Do I hear Mr. Burlingame?
I will make a motion to adjourn.
A second?
Okay, we'll vote on that. Mr. Burlingame,
Aye.
Ms. Hamilton,
Aye.
Ms. Porter,
Aye.
Ms. Dennison,
Aye.
Mr. Stevens,
Yes.
And the vice chair also votes yes. Thank you all. That was very efficient.
Yeah.
Well-prepared group.
Can we make comments?